Hey everyone, Dwaine here, Sports Talk Tech. How you doing? It's quick morning for me. I wanted to come and address some of the stuff that happened yesterday at the Continental Tour meeting in Budapest. Man, that's more more like a Diamond League setup in terms of the quality of the athletes there. But a number of interesting things happening, notably obviously Mondo Duplantis there stealing the show as usual, going for another world record, his 13 world record there. But before we get into Mondo, because in a way it's a brilliant performance, we know how good he is and has been for the sport. I want to touch on Bryan Levell, because Bryan Levell yesterday, in what can only be described as a statement performance, the big Jamaican there, delivering the third fastest time in the world. And for him, going into that sub 19.7 shape there, leading up to what is certainly going to be, hopefully, a fantastic world championship for him. We're looking at just about 4 weeks away or so for the world championship. And what that really means is that athletes are gearing up. So there's probably different ways of thinking about it. We've touched on this before. When it comes to preparation for athletes, some coaches like to peak their athletes at different points in the season, take them out of that peak, and then get them ready for the championships. I think certainly some of that will be happening on when you look at a bunch of Jamaican athletes that are coached by Stephen Francis. That's usually the thing. But there's also that notion that you can run a peak for months, right? And you just kind of adjust the amount of load and then put it back on. And so it's like intensity versus what you put the athletes under. And there are some athletes that once they hit that mark, they can just maintain that over a period of time, and there's just some tweakings that happen there. That's not an exact science in terms of peaking, if you understand the sport, but coaches have philosophy there. That's where they always say the art and science kind of interplay. But Bryan Levell there, I thought really good performance from him, outclassing a field there that included, Wade Van Niekerk. He's been hit and miss in terms of what he's been doing recently. Van Niekerk, that is, opting to kind of focus more on the 200 meters. For him, I think he would probably be okay with a performance like that. We're looking at 20.07 for Wade, edging closer to a sub 20 performance. We'd love to see Wade over the 400 meters, but that clearly isn't the thing. I think a healthy Wade would also serve as an important part of the structure for South Africa in terms of their 4x4 chances and what that might mean for them later on in September, well, early in September rather. But for Bryan Levell to drop this kind of performance, and we must admit on the home stretch, he looked fantastic. He was pulling away, looks in great shape. I thought the second half of the curve wasn't as smooth as he probably could run that. So there's some work there to do. But getting into that stuff, and thank you everybody for joining. I'm just doing a quick live here before I have to get ready to head out. But the notion that he could do much better. So if you can drop a 19.6 at this stage, and you have to think he might get into a much better shape by the time you get to the World Championships. You're looking at an athlete that can probably go closer to 19.5, which would be an interesting kind of setup. If he's able to do that. I'm not saying he'll run 19.5 in Tokyo, but he's in the mix now. You have to say that Bryan Levell is an athlete that potentially could find his way on a medal podium. It's an interesting space. We've talked about it. We've seen the resurgence of Noah Lyles coming back to win the U.S. National Championships ahead of Kenny Bednarak. I'm sure Kung Fu Kenny would be in the right shape getting there. There's Letsili Tobogo. Those are the athletes that you give away the medals to before the competition starts. That's how we would conceptualize that. Is that the right thing to do? Not quite sure. And you have to think about Bryan Levell now. A couple weeks ago, well, last week or so, we start to think about Zarnell Hughes, because he had looked pretty good over his performances there in the British Championships. So, but Levell is now getting up there. He ran that into a headwind. If the others aren't in tip-top shape, possibly you have to say he's in the mix. He's in the mix. And the thing about Bryan there, he's not competing over 100 meters. So that is really a fillip for him, if you think about it in that context. No 100 meters. The others are running 100 meters. Let's see, has been doubling for these last major championships. Kenny will double. Likewise for Noah, he's the defending champion over 100 meters and 200 meters. So that suggests that they have to work hard. Zarnell will also be running 100 meters. So if you are a fresh Bryan Levell, you have to look and say, this is my chance. This is an opportunity to do something. And I think he's capable of doing it. I like it. And, you shout out to him. Did we see this coming? Well, it depends on who you ask. There's a lot of talk about his preparation, and he's coming along very well. He's still very young. So the kid is he's born in 2003. So as a young athlete, his cycle should be looking towards to the next Olympics for sure. But now is the time to start making some moves there, and you have to like it. I thought that was a standout performance there from a sprint perspective, and it's notable, and we should give him all the credit. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on it. I thought the meet yesterday was really outstanding meet as well. There's so many big performances there. I was actually watching it while I was I can't say how I was watching it, but I then eventually finished watching most of it. I had an interesting lunch break yesterday, so I got an opportunity to see most of the stuff that happened. Yeah. Okay. So I want to touch on Mondo Duplantis as usual, because that guy's outrageous. So we're thinking Mondo goes 6 meters 29, and every year he's setting up his mark for how many world records he clearly wants to break. This is another year. This is his 13th world record over the pole vault. He's established himself as the greatest we've ever seen. I'm not quite sure if we'll ever see the like of Mondo. He's raised the bar so far. It's very difficult for others to catch up. I mean, I like Corrales. I think he's been improving recently. He tried, I think, at 6'11", but I think he's the only one that is showing that kind of levels that could get to potentially where Lavigny was, or some areas where Bukko was. Probably, I'm not quite sure if he'll do that. But in terms of a competition for Mondo, it isn't. You should never get bored of seeing a world record go. But the way in which Mondo has been doing this over so many years, it after a while, it just becomes like, oh, it's Mondo, his performance. He's going to break the world record once or twice a year. I know a couple of years ago, we never knew what the ceiling was. I remember having this discussion about, is it possible for an athlete to get to 6 meters 30? We used to laugh at that kind of thing. Now he's at 6'29". We saw last year when they started to do some of those measurements to see how far you can do a clearance. And you recognize that he can get up there. And I think Mondo is in a stage now where he's possibly going to do it. It wasn't the cleanest of clearance for him. I think he hit the thing a couple of times. It was a bit lucky for hit to stay on. He hit it with his chest as well. But the dude is crazy. He's good for the sport. Collects another 100K or something like that. If the sponsors must hate him at this moment, but I like it. That you have to think that that's probably the most stunning performance we've seen in a while. So. Well, not in a while, because he just broke the world record recently as well. But he's doing some interesting stuff there, Mondo, that is. And I guess long may it continue. I suspect he'll try again at the World Championships, if not before. I don't know if he'll try in the remaining Diamond Leagues. I have to look at the schedule there. There's a bunch of Diamond Leagues. Diamond Leagues on Saturday for sure. I'll be doing a watch along for that. So hopefully you'll be around to join me so we can get into that. Yeah. So big up to Mondo. He's been been fabulous for the sport, and that was, what I thought was such an interesting performance there. I want to touch on a number of a couple of things before I actually get out of here, because I can't stay too long. And but I want to talk about a 100-meter performance there on both sides for men and women. So it was a stacked field, a lot of interest there from athletes from Jamaica in particular, and it was good to see. You can't complain about that. Kishane Thompson. I'll start with the men before I get into the women. All right, yeah, if I can actually find the results to put up. But anyway, Thompson, ends the night, I guess, running into a headwind. It wasn't the greatest run from Kishane. He didn't look particularly smooth. His execution out, it's not the greatest start for him, but it wasn't anything to concern yourself. So I think this is where we start to make the claims about what's the expectations, what the preparation looks like for an athlete like that, and the athletes that are being conditioned by, say, Francis. They usually show up at the tour, at the championships in great shape, and they peak for those championships. So I don't necessarily would be concerned about the timing there, because he ran, what was it, 9.7 at the Jamaica Championships some weeks ago. It's clear that they probably pulled on off a peak, and they're now back at it again. And so, he wins. It wasn't the smoothest race. It was a decent field. Some Simbinis there. I'm also hoping that Akani Simbini is trying to work his way back up. We saw him early, and that's the kind of troubling thing. Not the troubling thing, but it's the conditions for athletes that are on the Southern Hemisphere. So they usually are running much faster early. It's a big challenge for them to be prepared by the time you get to the World Championships. But for Simbini, I think this might be his second race back since he took a little break off earlier. But it was an interesting field. A bunch of Jamaicans there too, Watson and Golson, who should also feature in part of the Jamaica relay setup. Amanyala, he's not having a good season at all. Not quite sure what's happening there. But yeah, and in the end, Thompson worked a little bit, but comfortable. Can't really complain. I think he'll be fine by the time you get to the World Championships. It's not a matter, I don't think, of how fast he's running there. So yeah. As for the women now, that's an interesting one. The women, you also featured Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. It was the same order from the Jamaica Championships in terms of getting to Tokyo, but except that Talu Smith won. And, I have a lot of time for Marie-Josée Talu. She's been fabulous over these years. It's also into a headwind there. 10.97, 10.99, 11 flat for Sherika Jackson. Fraser-Pryce, 11.07. You see these times, no one will be concerned about those times in terms of if you are Julian Alfred or if you are Melissa Jefferson Wooden. I think those two are the standout. The Americans have a couple more athletes. I don't think that's driving any kind of fear. But again, I would say it's possible that they might not be at the level. I want to spend a little time on Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce. You have to be concerned about the execution at the front, right? Because I was thinking that she would be running a little bit fast at this stage too, if you wanted to make any sense there. But she's not the same Shelly that we've seen. That explosive start isn't there, and she's still in the mix. I want her to go out the way she wants to go out, which probably is making the final in Tokyo. That might be difficult. It depends on what. The semifinals are going to be tough. It's going to be 3 semifinals, so you gotta, if you get into top 3, will automatically get in. So there's some work you have to do to get there. 9 lane finals in Tokyo. Tina Clayton there, 10.99. But Talu Smith in the end winning. I think Clayton and Jackson probably has the same type of program in terms of load management. Sharika herself, not where you expect. I want to see her over 200 meters too. But you can't look at this and feel like there's going to be a Jamaica push for medals yet. Yeah. I anticipate Clinton will be in much better shape by the time you get to the championships, but it's still puzzling when you try to kind of dissect what's happening with Shericka Jackson. And I think this is just the year for Fraser-Pryce to end on at the global stage the way she wants to, which is interesting. I often think about these things, and athletes get to go out the way they want. It's just like it's always tough to see some of the superstars go out when they're no longer on top, but you don't get to decide that way, and she decides how she leaves the sport. So yeah, hopefully she can make it into a final. I'm not 100% optimistic at this moment, but you never count out a heart of a champion. You got to wait a bit to see how they turn up at the championships, and hopefully that is in good shape. I want to quickly shout out Ashante Moore. I thought her season has been going in the right direction. I wonder if she'll show up at the championships in even better shape to assist Jamaica, especially in different ways too. But look at her running that 22.3 there. Still a bit kind of, if you look at her body type, extremely muscular, almost bordering on like there's some leaning out that can be done by the time to get her at probably the ideal type. But she ran well. I think Favor Feely there also was pushing. Feely, as we know, is a quality athlete, an athlete that would have been disappointed last season for what happened, especially with Nigeria, an athlete that I think also declared to leave Nigeria. So it's interesting. Darren Nita too, also trying to round in some shape, coming off of her run there at the British Championships as well. So it was a good feel. Can't complain. I think Moore would be happy with that. She's been running increasingly better. How fast can she go? I'm not sure. Can she get it down to low 22s? Can she even go sub 22? That's the kind of standard you might be needing to start thinking about what if you can challenge. But I really don't know if that will happen. Mark, what's going on? Yeah, I want to touch on those quickly before I leave. I thought Visser was really good there in the 100-meter hurdles. We talk about this; it becomes cliche now, and it's the same statement all the time when we think about the hurdles, and it's that is very difficult to predict. You have to like what you get from the women on every given day. Let me try to pull it up in a second there to see if I can put the results in. But when I watched it yesterday, it was an interesting race. I thought Visser did well. Aliyah, I think Armstrong was out quick. I liked her. Not quite sure what happened to Kira Nugent there. I think she probably hit a couple of hurdles. I was watching it on a smaller screen while it was happening live. And let me get it up there quickly. Yeah, and so 12:43. It's good time. The wind seems to be constant there, but it's a lot of headwind. Armstrong got out well. Also, I think Clemens also is trying to get back into it. But Akira Nugent, I was a bit disappointed with that performance there. I think she didn't get out as smooth as she wanted, and then I think she had some missteps. I have to look at it again. Maybe if you guys watch it on replay, it could give me a better assessment. And then she hit a couple at the end while she was trying to get back into the race. She's a much better athlete than that. But you have to turn up at the championships in really great shape. And just to cap off on Visser, I mean, Visser was unlucky in terms of her performances over the last few years. And the hurdles is unkind. It's going to be interesting. I still think we're looking at what Masai Rossa can do. We're looking at Grace Stark. The Americans are so stacked on this too, but Toby Amazon might show up. I just can't, you can't really call it. I think Megan Tapper has been having a fabulous season too. She could push up in the mix. We know we won't have. I don't think Samba Mayela is around. She's been injured all season. Kamacha Quinn, I think, recently spoke about her challenges and maybe the difficulty getting to the championship. So it's anybody's game there for sure. I think Lika Klava looked decent. I thought she was trying to probably run much faster just to finish your point there, Mark. And Femke opened up early, 52. What was it? 52-24. I have to let me check again. I can't remember off the top of my head, but she was, it's like a one-woman race there. I think Femke starts favorites in the World Championship. She should be on course to defend. I think it's going to be an interesting World Championships in terms of women's 400 meters. I think Dalila Muhammad will leave the stage with a World Championship medal, and that is the ending that would be just so amazing, and no one would really would think about. Clearly, Anna Krockel is still there. She has to work her way into some shape and to challenge to even challenge to beat Dalila, which is interesting. So, yeah. Let me get to a couple more comments. Mr. Roosmith said, I agree, Ashanti needs to lead now. Yeah, she's a bit, kind of heavy than normal, but I think our body type is probably like that. I think leaning out probably would be better too over the 200 meters. I suspect they should have a plan for that. We'll see. Peter Marking, how are you doing? Peter says Bryan Levell continues in his form. He will surprise the world, winning the 200 finals. He just competed in one event. Now Elias Kenny Tobogo. Okay, it's a bit bold statement there, Peter. Would I be mad if that happened? No. I think that would be an interesting thing. It would also be a refreshing tone. You get new athletes pushing through. If that were to happen, I still would be surprised. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what Shanika Osborne has up the sleeve for him in terms of where she expects him to be. But the kid has a lot of talent, really a lot of talent, and I'm happy he pushed through. I remember, seeing him. He's going through the high school stuff. I remember some years ago at the Penn Relays too, I saw him, and you look at him now, and then he's like a much bigger athlete in terms of his development in body structure and so on. And there's a lot of ways to go for it too. But can he win? I don't know. I mean, I do understand what you're saying. There's going to be fierce competition over the 100 meters. I think you have to work really hard if you're doubling, given the quality. You think about Thompson, you think about Oblique Seville, then Kenny Tobogo wants to be in the mix, and Elias. Those are the three guys who would play the role in the 200 meters. And so for that, you would say if you're just sitting out, hanging around and being fresh, then yeah. But those guys also work hard to get to that space. And those are 19.4, 19.5 runners, 19.3 for Lyles. I'm not sure Lyles can deliver a 19.3. Again, I don't know. It's probably not required. When you double, it's really difficult to run those fast times too. So I anticipate that if you're doubling in the 100 meters, maybe you're hanging out around in 19.5s, potentially a 19.4. Can Level get to that? I don't know. We'll definitely have to see. Marcia, Savannah DNS in Budapest and Anna Dina pull out of the Diamond League that's coming up in Poland on Saturday. Yeah, here's the thing about those things. That happens. I think coaches make some claims there. People think about, do you want to do a little bit more work as opposed to doing the travel and competing? It's not cool if you bought your tickets and you're waiting, or you're just waiting to see the athletes run out there. Julian Alfred, I think, is not competing as well in a couple of those Diamond Leagues. So yeah, it happens. It's not the first time. So I am not quite sure how to put through some of those things. Yeah, it's just disappointing you don't see it from that angle. But you often have to remember the most important thing is that athletes are trying to prepare themselves for Tokyo and they want to be there to win that kind of stuff. But I think the Diamond League would end will in good moments. There's going to be some athletes that's trying to get on to. By the time you get to the Diamond League final, they're going to need that to get to qualify for Tokyo. So it's still going to be high level competition. So I wouldn't worry that much. Anika, how you doing? Good morning. Happy Wednesday. On my way to work, but saw you. Yeah, I gotta go into soon for some interesting. I'm in some workshops this week. So, but I wanted to come live last night and didn't get a chance. And I definitely can't come live tonight because I have some stuff in the night to do. So I just felt like let me just kind of knock off an early morning live. I didn't even schedule it. I just woke up and I'm like, I'm just gonna go live. I didn't even tell them. I don't even think there's a thumbnail up by the time I went live. I texted my producer and I'm like, get me a thumbnail. Dell is saying, good morning all. Levels 200 was not done on Oregon's track and literally ran with no immediate threats as compared to now and Kenny. Those are interesting points. It wasn't competitive. It was in the same level. I mean, Wade ran well. Budapest is a quick track too. We can't complain about that. It's a relatively new track. The stadium was rebuilt for the World Championships a couple of years ago. Yeah, you like it. I like it. I'm not complaining. I think you're making an interesting point there. What I will say is that he'll get to the championships and hopefully be in shape and rested shape too. I think he can get on the podium. I honestly think he can get on the podium. I don't know where all of this will come from. Obviously, not Lyles has the 1963 to 1967 from Kenny. Yeah, Oregon is a factor. It was negligible win too. It was like 0.2 in a positive direction. Bryan was into a headwind, 0.4. So yeah, I get it. And then it's a bunch of 19.7 guys there from Let's Sealy and Tamar's. Yeah, I think I don't want to put pressure on the kid, but I think he can do well. I think he will do well. John, how you doing? Well, Lever did have more to say about. Levy rather did have more to say about Tina, so hopefully he will say more closer to the worlds. Interesting. Oh, yeah, I gotta talk to Leighton later. I get Vincent Defoe. What's going on? He's also a 400-meter runner as well, and maybe if he does a little more 400 in training, then that should help his 200 meters, and he should make Jamaica and the Caribbean proud. You talking about Bryan? Interesting. I mean, he did 1 and 2 in high school, but we'll see. Dell says if Level executed that race in Oregon, that would have been a 19.6, possibly a 19.5 high. Oh no, it's interesting. 19.5 could be pushing it, but we'll see. Conditions matter, obviously. I think he's in great shape. I think he's in a shape to claim a medal or to compete for a medal. If he wins it all, I would be still shocked at this moment. Mr. Roos says the thing is, has Level race against the big three in the 200. He may want to race 1 or 2 before Tokyo, lining up against them. I think he did run he ran against Kenny and Diamond in Grand Slam early, I think. And so we'll see. John says Tia back for Diamond League. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff happening this weekend in Diamond League too. I think it should be exciting as well. Appreciate the comments coming in. I'm trying to think if I covered everything I want. I thought Kip Corey yesterday was good over men's 800 meters, that 142.96. I was watching it. I was just like on my phone while I was supposed to be doing something else. And I was like, yo, this is really good stuff from him. I thought men's hammer yesterday was brilliant. We had a world lead from what's his guy's name? Benz. His last name is slipping me. I think it was like 83 meters went yesterday as well. I think Katzberg was also good. So there was good competition in the hammer throw. I always have to point that out as well. I think Georgia Griffith did a good run there too in the 1500 meters. And so there was some good stuff there. 400 meters, interesting. I thought that was a good race too. Want to shout out Jareem Richards because, we've been having a discussion. Jareem Richards is also the guy who could potentially run 2-4, but he should stick to 4 this year because I think there's some space there. Samuel Conga just holding on to winning 44-11. Richards also there, 44-14. McRae 44-16. That was a good race. If I can find it, I'll put it up on the screen in a second. What I want to say about that too is, you have to like it. I like how Richards is pacing the season, in particular, the man from Trinidad, because last year he would have been disappointed not to be on that podium, to run that time and don't make it on the podium. It's really a tough mark. 400 meters it's softer this year than last year, so I think you could get on the podium. A bunch of guys that should be there won't be there, and he's just not quite sure. I want to highlight Rasheen McDonald. This is more concerning, right? And the longer it goes on, and you remember you have until August 24, so to make that standard, he doesn't have the World Championship standard, and he could have had that standard at the Jamaica Championship had he not done what he did at the end. So he's not getting close. He wasn't looking good in that race. He was trying to get back into it. In the end, running 45-12. That's way off. And so he needs to get to 44-8 quickly. I don't know if he'll do it at this stage. And he was in the kind of shape to do it a month or so ago. And that's not good. But I think Richards is rounding into the right shape. I think we know he can go 43 and change. So maybe he can get into it. So that was the point I want to make there. Let's see a couple of things. Anika says, Levell and West Indies made my day Tuesday. Yeah, it was. I got to be honest with you. That was a standout performance by the Windies there in Tarouba, and particularly Jaden Seals. But I will say Captain Shea Hope, and just to go on cricket for those for a little bit, because Anika's here. She's always keeping me on a cricket. I haven't been doing enough cricket videos, but I'll get to that. Shea Hope there at the end. Justin Graves. I think the step up in the end, because it didn't look like he would get to anywhere close to 300 for the final score, and I like it. And so that puts some immense pressure. But the line and length there from Jaden Seals was brilliant. And as we know, Jaden Seals moves the ball better than anybody else in Test cricket in terms of lateral movement. The kid is good. Home country for him as well. Yeah, nice little stadium there. I've been to Bryan Levell Academy a couple of times. It's neat. It was good that they won. Hopefully they can continue winning and get that automatic spot by the time the World Cup rolls around. It's also something that we needed because T20 didn't go well. Australia utterly destroyed us in every department except that we were good in the bowling in Test match cricket. But apart from that, there was little to take away. Also on the backs of emergency meetings with Cricket West Indies that included former greats like Clive Lloyd and Brian Lara and all these guys trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So we'll talk about that another time. Let's get a couple of things here. Mark says Budapest Stadium much more smaller than looks. So it's not the same. I thought it was at the same venue. I could be wrong. If it wasn't at the same venue, I apologize. Dell says, do you think that performance from Levell will cement his third place on the 4x1 leg? I don't think that should be a question, to be honest with you. You look at the guy. The guys run 9.8 as well, so it's not like he's having a fluke season. He's having performances. Didn't do probably what they wanted to do at the Jamaica National Championships. But if you go with no politics aside, no behind the back talk and all that kind of stuff, he has to run. He has to run. It's not. Who's running a better curve than Bryan Levell out of Jamaica right now? Who has the ability to do that? He should be on the team. So they just need to make it happen. figure it out, make it happen. I think it goes that way. I think you do. I think for a cemented place, for sure, for me, I'm going Oblique Seville has to run, Kishane Thompson has to run, and Bryan Levell has to run. That's simple for me. And I also think Akeem Blake has to run. I think he starts. You get it to Oblique on the back stretch. Levell runs the curve, and anchors by Thompson. And if they can maximize the exchanges, I think they could run something out of this world. I believe that with conservative changes, they should still win. They should win. So they shouldn't mess around with this. Yeah. Kim, how are you doing? Good morning to you, Mr. Rue. The announcers said yesterday. Said okay, interesting. Thanks. Brian, what's up? Yeah, it was really early. Yeah. I want to tell you, like, I didn't get a chance to come live yesterday, and I won't get a chance to come live tonight. And I just wanted to come here and address some stuff. I can't stay much longer. I'm looking at the time now. I gotta soon have to go to make some moves. But I felt like we had to come on and do a little chat about all these things. Mr. Roo says the announcers yesterday said they took the top level. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah. But it was the same track and everything. Couple other things I want to touch on as well. As many of you would have seen, Fred Kerley got a whereabouts suspension from the Athletics Integrity Unit. You never like that. I don't like that. I am always, you know, my position on whereabouts. It should never happen. I don't know what to say. You know, it's interesting. In response to it, Fred Kerley, and for I know most of you are steep in track and field. A whereabouts suspension is a suspension that means you've missed 3 drug tests in a calendar year. Yeah, so that shouldn't happen. I don't know what happened there. So his year has gone from a bit is worse than it started out. But this is his statement that came out from from the law offices of Howard Jacobs. It says Fred Kerley has been notified by the Athletics into AIU that he intends to contest the allegation that he has violated the anti-doping rules related to whereabouts, blah, blah. And he strongly believes that one or more of his alleged mistests should be set aside either because he was not negligent or because the doping officer did not do what was reasonable under the circumstances to locate him at his designated location. So anyway, and Fred won't comment any further. So it's possible that he could win this, but I don't know. He's probably saying they didn't work hard enough to find him. He's not saying that out publicly because I guess they have to fight this case now with the AIU, but he's going to go through a whole process here. And we've seen athletes get off the whereabouts suspension before, and we've seen cases where they don't, right? And they end up serving 2-year bans, and it's never good. There is the Adams, that's the system you have to work with where you update your location. And for you to miss 3 in a row is also kind of interesting. You shouldn't be missing any anyway, but you get a chance to miss a couple in a calendar year, then it resets. So, that's interesting there. Yeah. So probably gonna say that's the recap from yesterday. I may have missed out on a few things that we could want to talk about. I thought Joe Kovacs was brilliant yesterday doing that 22:33. Joe Kovacs, as many of you know, started off the U.S. Championship thinking he was going to make the team, and in the end he didn't. So that was tough for him. Yeah. I liked the meet yesterday. I thought it was one of the better track and field meets of the season. It wasn't a Diamond League, but it was spectacular. World record, Mondo Duplantis again. I think 6:30 is coming. I'm not sure where the ceiling is. Maybe 6:32. Could be 6:35. But that kid is amazing. And long may it continue as well. Guys, it's been my pleasure. I got to run out because I got to get ready to do some other stuff. Thanks for those of you coming on really early, wherever you are. And for some of you, maybe the early time allowed you to get on because time zone difference changes. I'll catch up with you guys soon. And I'll be on Saturday for watch along for the Diamond League there coming up. It should be golden as well. You guys do take care. And, we've been splicing up some videos from the last couple of interviews between Tim Adams, if you hadn't seen the whole interview, and also some stuff with Leighton Levy as well. So, you can check that out too. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.